Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing my September wrap up, so I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I read this month. I had a really good reading month, like ratings wise. Most of the books that I read this month were 4 or 5 stars, which is awesome. So as usual, I'm going to start with my lowest star rating and work my way up to my highest star rating. The lowest star rating I had this month was a 3-star book. There was just one of them, and it was Foe by J.M. Coetzee. This is a novel that's kind of based around Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, which is about a guy that gets left somehow on a deserted island. I've read that a long time ago, but I don't specifically remember the details or anything, but this one is kind of based on that. So in this book, there's a woman that ends up stranded on the deserted island with Robinson Crusoe, and Robinson Crusoe's servant called Friday, who is a mute essentially. He doesn't speak, and they think it's because his tongue has been cut out previously when he was a slave. So the premise of this book is that the woman, Susan, gets left on this island with Crusoe. He dies, and she decides that she's going to have the story of Crusoe and the island published. So she contacts an author called Foe to write it for her because she doesn't feel, you know, she's a novelist, so she'll get this man Foe to write the story for her. I enjoyed the first part of this book a lot when Susan was actually on the deserted island with Crusoe. That part of the book was quite interesting. It was just a bit underwhelming for me. I think it's also because this book is very like metafictional. It's very self-consciously written as a book, and I don't always enjoy that. It just feels like it's trying a little bit too hard, and yeah, so I don't know, I found the character of Friday interesting and that whole thing, but overall not like my favourite book in the entire world. By the way, excuse the construction noises. Yeah, so moving on to all of my 4-star reads for the month. The first couple are Shakespeare plays that I had to read this month. The first one was A Midsummer Night's Dream, and this one I really enjoyed. It's about 3 humans who are in a bit of a love triangle. There's a girl whose dad wants her to marry this one guy who the guy does want to marry her, but she wants to marry someone else who is also in love with her. So there's that going on, and then basically fairies get involved and mess it all up by kind of playing Cupid and making, oh, there's a 4th girl as well, I forgot. There's a 4th girl that's in love with the guy that the dad wants the other woman to marry. It's very like slightly confusing, but it's awesome. Yeah, overall it's just very funny and entertaining. The only thing I didn't like about this play was when the fairies speak, they speak a lot in rhyming verse, which I'm just not a fan of. I find it like kind of irritating, so I didn't like those sections, but otherwise a really entertaining play. My other 4-star Shakespeare play that I read this month was Macbeth. This was one where I already kind of knew the story because I'd seen adaptations of it, but I'd never read the actual play, and it was so good. In this play, Macbeth gets told by 3 witches that one day he's going to be king, so he decides that it would be a good idea to kill the current king so that he can take his place. But he keeps like nearly getting found out, so his solution to everything is just to kill people. So it gets really, really dark, and Macbeth's wife is really encouraging to him as well. She thinks he's a bit like weak and stuff, so she's constantly encouraging him to commit this murder of the king in the first place. I just really enjoyed how dark and grim it was. It really explores kind of the psychological effects of a situation like this. It doesn't like brush over murder. It shows how it ruins Macbeth and ruins Lady Macbeth for the guilt and remorse that they feel afterwards. It literally drives them insane, and it really explores that in a creepy kind of way. So I enjoyed that. I liked the witches in it. The reason I gave it 4 stars rather than 5 stars was that I found towards the end it got a bit dull. Pretty much the last like few scenes, I guess, just felt unnecessary to me. I guess Shakespeare just likes to wrap everything up, but I would have preferred it like just to end. The next book that I read was one that I got out from the library earlier this month, and that was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. This one is a YA contemporary novel. It's about 2 boys that form a friendship. I want to say they're neighbours. Are they neighbours? I can't remember, but they form a friendship over the summer, and it just explores how they become closer, the conversations that they have, both of their like relationships with their families and their parents as well. And then throughout the course of a year they go to separate schools, and then they sort of come back together and revisit their friendship the following summer. I really loved this book. I just loved seeing their friendship form. I thought they had a really nice connection. It was just really interesting to watch. I really enjoyed their family dynamics as well. The only thing I didn't like, which again is why I gave it 4 stars not 5, was the fact that when they go off to separate schools, they're kind of just talking like through letters, but Ari's not really talking to Dante properly, and I just was like waiting for them to be reunited, which is probably not a bad thing because I was just so invested in these two characters that I just wanted them to be back together again. So I was like frustrated when they were separated by school. But it's just overall a really fantastic book. Totally recommend it. The ending was so satisfying as well. I ended up, I think I stayed up till like 3 in the morning or something because I just got to a point where I had to know how it ended. So I just kept reading, and I was only like halfway through when I went to bed, and I just read it until 3 in the morning until it was finished. But the ending was really satisfying, so I was really happy. And my final 4-star book for the month was Kingfisher's Debt by Kuta Carpenter. This is one that I have a review on. It's spoiler free, so I'll link it down below if you want to know more about this book. But essentially it's about a young woman called Tamsin. It's set in Dunedin in New Zealand. She is a fair folk person. She's a fairy, and her family is kind of involved with crime and stuff, and then she's helping investigate with the local police a case where a baby has gone missing. So if you're interested, check out my review, which is linked below. And finally, my 5-star reads for the month. The first one is another one that I have a full spoiler-free review of. If you want to check it out, that will also be linked down below, and it is Alone. This one is a graphic novel. Excuse the reflections there, it's very shiny. But it's a graphic novel about a man that lives in a lighthouse alone, and another man who is on a boat that delivers like food and stuff to him decides he wants to know more because they've never seen this man, they just know that he lives there. Wants to know like why he's there and what he does with his time and stuff. So this graphic novel just explores what you would do alone in a lighthouse by yourself, and it's just a very, very sweet story. I really liked it. It looks very dark because of the cover. Someone, I think it was Kuta, actually said on one of my videos this month, she was like, it looks a bit like a horror graphic novel, but yeah, it totally looks like that. It's not though. It's a lovely little story. The illustrations are really awesome. I'm gonna try and find you one that I can show you without spoiling anything. There you go, there's just a lot of seagulls. I really like the illustrations. There's not a lot of text with this one. Loved it. If you want to know more, you can check out my review. Next, for another 5-star read, is also one that I had out from the library earlier this month, and that is Star-Crossed by Barbara D. This is a middle grade contemporary novel, and I don't read a whole lot of middle grade, but this one really impressed me. I thought it was the cutest book in the entire world. It's basically about a girl that is in middle school. She is struggling with having crushes on different people because she doesn't know how she's supposed to feel, kind of thing, and she's dealing with friendships and things like that as well. And then her school is they're putting on a play, and they're doing Romeo and Juliet, and this girl gets really into it. She is all of a sudden like a big fan of Shakespeare, and she really enjoys Romeo and Juliet, and she really feels like she gets it, kind of thing. It's a very, very cool, sweet story. One thing I want to say is that I don't feel like the cover of this novel does it justice. I know it's aimed at middle grade kids, but I just feel like the cover is a bit younger than what the book actually portrays, if that makes sense, because the characters in this book, I can't remember how old they're meant to be, but maybe about 12, and I just feel like the cover looks more childish. It looks more like 8 to 10-year-olds, you know what I mean? I think it's just the costumes and stuff, like they are doing Romeo and Juliet, so that's why. But I just feel like I don't love the cover. I just feel like it didn't quite match up with the book, and I feel like it would appeal to more kids that are like a wee bit older, like that 12-year-old like intermediate kind of age, if the cover was a little bit more sophisticated. It's cute, but I feel like the age doesn't quite match up. I loved the main character in this book. She's awesome. She is definitely flawed because she's just a middle grade kid, but she was so relatable. I loved her. I enjoyed how it explored friendships and all of the family dynamics, like her parents are quite involved in her life, which I liked. And I loved all of the Romeo and Juliet like Shakespeare references because I've been studying that play this year as well, so I just found that really cool. And overall, just a very sweet story. If you really like those very like sweet contemporaries, obviously it's middle grade, so it's not super lovey-dovey or anything, definitely check this one out. It was so lovely. My final 5-star read for the month is a YA contemporary, and it is Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. This one is about a girl that goes camping with some friends out in the wilderness, and her and a guy that she used to be best friends with, but they've ended up as enemies somehow. She ends up stranded with him out in the wilderness, and they have to try and find their way like home together. So as you can imagine, there's a bit of a like hate to love kind of trope going on. Loved it. I just loved all of the camping elements to this book. The guy that she's stuck with is like a bit of a goth, like emo kind of dude, which I feel like you don't see often enough in like YA contemporaries and stuff. I just liked that as a character. That's something different that appealed to me. So yeah, like I said, the wilderness setting was really cool. I liked all of their camping adventures or like misadventures. It was very entertaining and suspenseful at times. I also really liked the family dynamics in this book as well. One of the characters has two mums, which was interesting, and then one of the other characters is really close to her stepmom, which I feel like does away with that stereotype of like kids hating their step-parents. I thought that was really lovely. The wilderness aspect of this book was probably my favorite thing about it, but I also really loved the like romance plot line. I think it was like the best love interest sort of storyline that I've read in a really long time, so loved this book. So those are all of the books that I read this month. If you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, or if you're gonna pick any of them up, let me know that as well, and I will see you guys with another video in a couple of days. Bye.